Adjusting and or repairing the throttle brake on your 50 series tractor. I ask this question from time to time. My throttle won't stay in position, and it's usually the throttle brake. Of course, I had it all apart to get the dash off for this. So how it works is there's this cone-shaped piece that goes in here. There's a plastic washer. The cone-shaped piece has a cone-shaped washer on it as well. That goes in there. Of course, the shaft goes through all the middle of this. That nut goes on there, and if you just need to tighten it up, just take the top off your dash, reach in there with a wrench and tighten this up a little bit till you got the right amount of friction to keep your throttle in place. But occasionally, those friction pieces, the plastic in here, this flat washer or the cone piece go bad, fall down, way down. These can wear out. Another thing I've seen is Oliver used a friction pin to go through to lock this to the shaft, throttle shaft, and sometimes that would like partially break or get worn or wore the hole out. And so you'd have good friction, but there'd be a little bit of slop in your lever where it could throttle up and down without the brake action because of that. And if that's the case, I usually just drill it out and put the next size bigger. I put a roll pin in it instead of one of them friction pins. And that takes care of the problem. Get some new friction washers. Let's see, this other tower over here, there is a plastic sleeve inside of there to act as a bushing. The rod goes through, arm on the other end. And well, that one can be a bear. Here is the one from this tractor. I had to heat it up. I haven't done anything to paint it yet because I'll just paint it by hand. But boy, it's just can be a tough one to get off between driving that pin out and everything. I didn't want to get paint inside the hole, so I just decided I'd wait and paint it by hand once it's all reassembled. So let's do that. First thing you do is paint everything purple. I got my throttle rod here. If you had an over and under, you'd want to stick your over and under lever through the hole first. Then stick this baby through, get the nut on, the flat washer, the cone piece, and I think I've got a burr on the shaft. That cone piece does not want to slide over a spot there. And I don't want to mess up my paint. So I'm going to take a moment to find wherever the burr is and get that cleaned up. Let's try this again. Shaft must have been a little tweaked from me taking it all apart, having a bead on it and everything. The arm didn't want to go on either. So, if you got over and under, you got that in. You'll get that knob on there, the flat one. Oops. Okay, the tapered metal piece. Now, you'll have to get it all the way. Come on. I did get paint in that bushing on the other end. Bad me. Carefully. Don't want to mess up that paint. Okay, the roll pin that goes through on this cone piece is going to be kind of under this part, so you got to pull the shaft back out some Get the hole lined up. And then it's also got to be short enough. You don't want it much longer than the cone piece because it can hit this casting over here. So now I just need to drive that in. And of course it rotated. So now it's not lined up. Snap rings. They put one on each side of that bushing just to keep it from walking out of the hole. I gotta get one on before I go push it all the way in. There's no groove for them. All they gotta do is just keep that little plastic bushing from wandering out. There we go. Put a snap ring on the other side here. Guess I should grab the angled pair pliers. Whoever recommended the Knipex snap ring pliers, thank you. I bought a set and I've been loving them. They are great. So we just slip this on here. I think we'll come around to the other side. Gotta get the hole lined up. Drive another roll pin in. And all I gotta do is tighten her down and set the brake. Oop, that's a little tight. That feels pretty good. Now I got paint to touch up. They're all assembled. Got my friction set. Snap ring up there to hold that throttle rod on. Roll pin through there. If you come around the other side here, you can see why this roll pin has to be not too long, and it has to be driven in before you put it in because it doesn't stick out enough to get it to disassemble. It's just the reverse. You got to take this arm out and drive the pin out of that, which can be a bear. Then run the shaft up till you can get the roll pin out of that part. There's these snap rings. Then slide her all out the side. But now you're saying, what about my 100 series tractor or my 55 series tractor? Well, let's go look. Here we have my 1900A. There's your throttle brake. Throttle's under the steering wheel on the A's and the B's. Same with the 1800s. Here's your brake. Just tighten that nut up and it's clamped onto the steering wheel. So a little easier to service. You can spin that nut out, unclamp things, slide them around, but the principle's the same. I will check and see if the parts are the same. And I'll list them in the description as far as the plastic washers. 55 series and some of the whites. We'll look down here under the dash, and if you follow the throttle linkage, there's a, let me show that in there. Get in there. Get in there. That's not too bad. Follow the linkage back. There's a bell crank here. Or the lever comes down from the dash. This one goes up to the engine. Right here's a nut. You tighten that nut up, and that'll get you more friction if your throttle's drifting or whatever. And then if you need to repair it, take the nut off, and everything kind of slides off from there. You got to disconnect the 2 throttle linkages, and I'll see if the part numbers are the same for them. Put them in the description. Not too tough to get to as far as adjusting it. Just give that nut a little snugging, and see, the throttle should be good. The C Series 1800 had the throttle out the side, just like my 1850. So same parts for the throttle brake on that, same way of adjusting it. There in the dash, same thing with the 1600. Throttle on the side, so nut in the dash to tighten it down, and same parts to repair it if you need it. When you got into the 55 series, they didn't update the dash on the 1655 and 1555, so they're still the same as this 1600. And then 1755 and larger, we're like the 2255 over here. So hopefully that helps you with the whole loose throttle problem. Not too tough of a fix. Just knowing where everything's at. So hope this helped, and appreciate everybody watching. We'll see you in the next one.